Hello and welcome to this Affinity photo tutorial, looking at trying to make a fun bit of text like this that you can use as a logo, or for whatever reason you may want to use this sort of text. Now this idea came from a Photoshop tutorial which is done by Toots, and this was their end result, and as you can see mine is close but it's not exactly the same. I will add a link to this tutorial in case you want to follow this, because it's a written tutorial, not a video. You can follow this and maybe make alterations to try and get as close to this and make a better job of it than I have. Now, there are some things that you may need for this, one of them being the font. They've used a font called Sega, and where is it? It's here. Now I found the Sega font. It's a free download from thefont.com. I'll add a link to this. I didn't use it in the video because I have one on my computer which is called Cinema Gothic BTN Inline font, and I got this from, well, you can get this from Fonts Up. I got it from somewhere else, but it's no longer free from where I got it. There are versions of this where you can get a solid version of this as well, so you can sort of stack them up, but the individual inline version you can get here for free, and I would add a link to this. So you can either go with the Cinema Gothic or you can go with the Sega font, or if you have something similar you could go with that, because basically what you want is sort of gaps in the font like this, so you can see through the font, the background, if you're going to have a background. Other things I've used, as you can see, is this coloured stripy lines, which I'll just use as a background. You can use any background you want, but I got this from Pixabay.com. I want to add a link to this as well. And the last thing I have used is from DeviantArt, which is some optical flares. And this collection is 148. And this is free. Now you do have to be quick with this because the actual download button is underneath this advert here. And if I do a quick refresh, the button is there, but this advert will pop up quickly, so you just need to sort of get to the download button quickly to get to that. So now I've set up how this works, I will then reset everything and I'll be back in a little while to start the tutorial. Okay, I've reset everything now and I've just opened up this background image which I'll be using later, but first I need to start a new document. So I'm going to come up to here and new. Now I'm going to make this quite big. You don't necessarily have to make it this big, but I'm going to make mine 4000 by 3000, and I'm also going to have a transparent background. You'll see why a bit later. So I will click OK to start my new document. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a new layer just by clicking on this icon down here in the layers panel, and come to the flood fill tool and make black the foreground color, and just click in there and fill the canvas with black. So now we want some text to go in here. I'm going to come to the artistic tool and I'm going to select my font, which is going to be the Cinema Gothic, and I'm going to make the color white. So the fill option here, I'll just click in here and make that white, and then I'm just going to draw out a rough size that I want, and I'm going to type in the phrase I want. Now you don't have to do 2 lines or 1 line or however many lines you want, but the what we do want is to have whatever lines that you have, be it 2, 3 or 4, whatever, for them to all be the same length in size. So first of all, I'm going to highlight this shorter word. So if your shorter word is on the top, you would select that one, and I'm going to center it by clicking on the Align Center. And I'm also going to open the character panel, which is this button up here. I'll click on that and it opens up this panel here, and this is where a bit of guesswork comes into it. I'm going to have to keep clicking in this area here and sort of guess a size that's going to get me to where I want. So I'm going to start off with 200 and see where that gets me. Right, a bit more than that. Let's try 230. Right, 234. Let's just try 240. It might be too big. No, that's pretty much it. It looks to be about, well, it's near enough. It's near enough the same size as the Affinity word. So I'm going to leave that size wise there, and also I'm going to leave this highlighted, and I'm going to come to the leading override, which is this bottom one here of these 4 panels. And what I'm going to be doing is moving this word closer to the word above. So I need to press the down button. There we go. Just so they're almost touching. Just leave a little bit of a gap. Right, so that's okay. Now what I want now is I want to highlight all the text, so I will highlight both words and then use the tracking, which is the second one of these 4 boxes on the left here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be squeezing up all the letters so that they again are almost touching. So I need the down button. So they can just be touching or almost touching. Right, that's as far as that will go. No, a little bit more. Right, I think that's good enough for what I want. So I can come off that tool. I'll come onto the move tool now, and I just want to center this word, so I'll just use this option up here. So align it horizontally and vertically. I can get rid of this character panel now. I don't need that either. So with this text highlighted, I'm just going to change the color of this. So I'll come to the fill option, and I'm going to use the hex sliders because I'm going to type in a hex color. So that's going to be E59710. Now you can pick whatever color you want. This is just the color they used in the Photoshop tutorial that I was following. So I'm now going to select the FX button, which is down here, this FX. Just move this slightly out of the way, and then we're going to have a whole heap of effects to add to this. The first one we're going to try is the color gradient overlay, I should say. So I will put a tick in there, click on the word gradient overlay to give me the options. Now I'm going to click in this gradient box here. This will give me the gradient slider here. What I want is 5 nodes. We already have 2, and it is highlighted on the left one because the left one is bigger than the right one. and I'm going to insert 3 more nodes. Now when you click on insert, it will always insert it to the right, and if I clicked on this one, you see insert is greyed out. You can't insert to the right because you can't go any further. So bearing this in mind, I'll click insert and it will always do it 50% between whichever 2 nodes are available. So I now want another one that's going to come halfway between here, so the middle one is highlighted, so I can click insert. But I'm going to come back to the left hand one and then insert another one, and it should put it here in the middle between that one and that one. So we have the 5 nodes. Now I'm going to be changing colours. I'm going to have this black, this one white, this one black, this one white, this one black. So let's start on the left. That one's already black. Come to this one, and I'm going to change the colour to white. This one I want black. This one white, and this one black. Yeah, so we now have a gradient of black, white, black, white, black. So I want an angle of this of 135. You can have whatever you want, but I'm going to have it just so it's got the gradient is going diagonally, not straight. And I'm going to change the blend mode from normal to screen. So this will give me like the darker and lighter stripes across the wording. And I'm just going to lower the opacity down to about 75%, so it's not so strong an effect. 70, there we go, 75. So that is the first effect. The next one we're going to go for is the bevel and emboss. So I'm going to put a tick into there. Click on the wording to get the options. The first thing I'm going to do is change the type from pillow to inner, and I'm going to click a profile. At the moment there is no profile because this is black. If I click into here, it'll open up various profiles that you can sort of preset one. So if I click on one of these, it will alter how this looks. But I'm going to go with the very first one, which is the straight line going across there. And then I'm going to increase the radius from 5 up to 40. It's probably easier to just type 40 in. And this will give us that sort of a very beveled edge, mainly because of the profile that we've already picked. I'm going to leave all the other settings at their default. So that is the last of the bevel emboss ones. And then I'm going to come up to inner shadow, put a tick into there, click on the word to get the options, and I'm going to make the radius 20 and the intensity I'm going to make 50. Again, leave all the other settings at their default. Then I'm going to come to inner glow, put a tick into that, click on the word to get the options. I'm going to leave it set on edge. It's already a default setting, I believe. I'm going to leave it on 50, and the radius I'm just going to increase that by up to 1, and change the blend mode from screen to multiply, which is here somewhere. Here we go, multiply, and then I'm going to close that down now. So at this point, if you wanted, you could, if this is how you like it to look, you could save this, and you already have one version of this. Now, if you wanted to, this is why I've made it a transparent background. You could turn off the background, and you then have a logo that you would have and save it as a I've forgotten what it's called. It's silly. Export. What is it called? PNG. Sorry about that. You can save it as a PNG and come to selection without background, and then that way you would have this logo with no background, and now you could use that at any time, any place. So let me just bring back the background, and we will then sort of move on to the next step. And for this I'm going to come up to the view menu, and I'm going to come to show grid, and it will give you this grid here. There are options to change the grid colors line so it makes it more visible. I can't remember exactly where it is, but there is an option somewhere in Affinity Photo to do that. I'm only using this grid to know where to alter the perspective of this text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the perspective tool, which will put a grid of its own over the word that you have highlighted. You can get rid of that grid if you don't want it. And then I'm just going to move these nodes at each corner into a corner point somewhere on this other grid that I have here. So let me go up to there, and maybe that one. And I'm just using this grid to try and keep everything all lined up nice and neatly. That looks okay to me. So we have the perspective of it going off into the distance. Maybe let's come back one more square. Yes, I think that's okay. So I'll click apply, and I don't need the grid anymore, so I'll come to view and take the tick away from view grid, so that is no longer visible. I am going to recenter this, so center it vertically and horizontally. Right, next thing I want to do is to duplicate this layer 2 times. So I'm going to right click here, come down to duplicate, and then do the same thing again. Now I'm going to rename these just so it makes it a bit easier to understand. This one's going to be top, this one's going to be middle, and this is going to be bottom. I am also going to highlight all 3 of these layers and then right click and group them together, and I'm going to rename the group text. So let me open up that group so you can see I've got the top, middle and bottom. Now we're going to use the move tool now, so I am already on the move tool, and I'm going to highlight the bottom layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to nudge the bottom layer over towards the right. Now I don't know how you do this on an iPad, but on a computer we have left and right arrows, and it is the right arrow that we're going to use. You could just do it, keep clicking it one at a time, or you can hold down the shift key and press the right arrow, and I believe that moves it 10 pixels at a go. So I'm going to do that 4 times to move that back layer over to the right. 3, 4, so that has moved the bottom layer over 4 times. I'm going to come to the middle layer again, hold down the shift key, and I'm just going to press this one twice. So we've got the 3 different layers of that text. One moved over 2 times, one moved over 4 times. So next we want to come to the middle layer, which we are already on, and we're going to add, no, before I carry on, because we changed the perspective of this, we have lost virtually all of the effects, apart from the gradient effect. All the other effects have gone, and that is something that's happened because of the perspective alteration, but we can sort of bring that back a bit, and I'll do that at the end. But get back to where I was, I'm going to open the effects panel again. I can just click on the FX for the middle panel. This will open up the layers effect panel again, and although a lot of the effects have been lost, we can still make an alteration. So I'm going to click on the color overlay, click on the word color overlay to give me the options. Now by default the color is black, and it is quite effective, but I am going to change that color, and I'm going to go with 000AFF, which is the blue color. I'm going to change that to overlay blend mode, and then I'm just going to lower the opacity down to 30%. In fact, I don't like that overlay blend mode. Let's try another one. No, I might think it just leave that on normal. I don't know quite why it's not giving me the same effect I had when I first did this, but that effect is quite good. I will leave that as that is. So this does show that you can make alterations as you go along, and I can also, if I want to, make other alterations to different layers, but I won't bother about that in a moment. So again, you could lose the background and save this as a PNG. We can then carry on. I'll bring back the background. Now the next thing is another option you could do, but something I'm not very good at, I freely admit this, is let me duplicate that whole text group, and I'm going to come up to arrange and flip vertically, come to the move tool, and I'm going to bring down this copy of the group down below here, and we're going to sort of try and make a reflection of that logo. Like I said, I'm not very good at this particularly, but we're going to come to the mesh warp tool, and it's just a case now of altering this and warping this to sort of make it look like a reflection. And you have all these handles here where you can make different alterations. Let me try that one there. You can also click on the line and just move a certain section. Like I said, I'm not very good at this sort of thing. But you get the idea of what it's trying to do here. I'll leave it up to you to fiddle around with that. So you would have your reflection basically, and then just lower the opacity down. Let me come off that tool a second. Lower the opacity down to maybe 20-30%. So you have what looks like a reflection. You could then also add a mask to that group, and with the paintbrush set to black, fairly low opacity, zero hardness, you could just sort of paint away some of those edges just to help blend it, make it look more like it's fading off into the distance and less of a reflection. But personally, I'm not very good at that, so I don't like it, so I personally am going to delete that, but it is an option that you could use. So coming back to just the basic wording here, I'm now going to add some of those flares that I mentioned earlier. And as I said, you've got these 148 flares that you can download, or you can get others online, but there's different colours of flares. There's blue ones, yellow ones, and what have you. And as my text is sort of yellow, I'm going to stick with some yellow ones, and I have two open here. We had the glint and flare number 6. Now what I have done already, let me open up another one just randomly. Let's try number 35. Now as you can see here, the actual black is not as black as it really could be. So what I have done is I've opened up the levels adjustment on this, and I've moved the gamma right the way to the right, and then merge that in, because what we want is that black background. So if I just right click this, copy, and then edit and paste, and if I change the blend mode of this to screen, that will lose not necessarily all of it, but most of the black background. So you could even try another levels adjustment and knock back even more of that black background. And then merge that down into there, so you could add an effect like that. I have already done the levels adjustments on these two, so I'll just copy them and paste it in. Again, change the blend mode to screen. These ones I don't need to alter the levels anymore, but what I will do is I will make them a bit brighter by duplicating it and then grouping those two together, so I can move them to somewhere else if I want. And which one did I use? Let's try that one. So copy, let's put this one down here somewhere maybe. Again, change blend mode to screen, duplicate that one, group them together, and put that there. So again, you could save at this point. Now this is where you can't really start saving it as a PNG, because if I take away the black background, you will still have the black background for the flares that we've added. So you couldn't really save this now as a PNG with no black background. So this is where you can't really start saving it as PNGs. Right. Now the next thing I want to do is to add the coloured stripe background. So for this I need to come to the bottom layer, highlight that, get my stripy lines, copy that, and when I paste this in now, it'll paste this in behind the text but above the black background. So it's just a case now of positioning it, resizing it. Let me make it quite big first of all. You don't have to use this background, you can use whichever one you want. Alright, so that's like that. So that's still a bit garish, that background, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the blend mode down to average, and that will just knock that back a little bit. I could also just change the blend mode so it's a bit more subtle and behind. Not a blend mode, opacity I mean. So I'm sort of more than happy with the position of that. So again, you could use whatever background you feel like doing. So again, you could save this at this point. What I will do is try and bring back some of that effect to the text. So I'm going to highlight the text group, so that's the whole group, and we're going to add some effects to the whole group. So again, click on the effects button, and we're going to go with the bevel and emboss, and we're going to go with the same settings of inner 40 pixels, the first profile option, and leave all the others at the default setting. We can also should be able to add a bit of outline. You can go with a little bit. I've got to remember this is going to affect the whole text layer, not just the top layer. So I've got that about 12. So you can just sort of helps highlight the lettering. So you can use that if you want or not. So close that down, come off that tool. So that is the end of the tutorial. You can use whichever settings you like and get different effects. You don't stick with just what I've told you or what the Photoshop tutorial says. Pick your own colours, your own blendings and your own positionings, and just have a bit of fun with it really. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.